Hi there, year 8. In this example over here, we're now going to be doing adding algebraic fractions together. And over here, I tried to make a template so that you can see the similarities between what you normally would do with fractions. So say a half plus 3/4, we can see that in order to add fractions, we need the same denominator. Okay, so because they need to be the same type of fraction. And how you do that is you find the lowest common multiple to begin with. And how do you do that? You would find the multiples of 2, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then multiples of 4 until, and then from there you then look for what's in common between the two lists. And I've highlighted that they both have a 4, they both have an 8, and they both have a 12, but you want the lowest common multiple, which makes it 4. Okay, so we've got 4, and then since we know that the lowest common multiple is 4, notice that 3/4 is already out of 4. So that's why I didn't have to change it, it stays as 3/4. Whereas over here, half, I needed to change the denominator 2 into a 4. And so I know that 2 times 2 gives you 4, but remember, to keep the fraction equivalent, I needed to multiply the top by 4 as well. So that's how I got 2/4 is the same thing as saying a half, okay? But notice that now both the denominators are the same. Since both denominators are the same now, I can then say, how many quarters do I have? I've got 2/4 plus 3/4, so together I have 2 plus 3 gives me a total of 5/4, okay? So, doing the same thing, say I gave you x over 2 plus 3x over 4, it's the same idea. It's like saying half plus 3/4, but instead, this time it's got an x, okay? And the same thing again, we need to find the lowest common multiple of the denominator, which is 2 and 4. The lowest common multiple is 4. So I did the same thing as I normally did. I had to change the denominator 2 into 4, so timesing both bottom and top by 2, known as 2 times x. I don't know what it is, so I write it as 2x, okay? So now I have 2x over 4 plus 3x over 4, and you can see here that when I'm adding them together, I'm adding like terms, which is what you normally do with algebra, right? That's what you were doing prior to this point. You were adding like terms. So these two have an x, so they're both x terms, and they both have 2x or 3x. Therefore, when you add them together, you get a total of 5 of these x/4. Okay, so that's how you would add fractions. So we're going to do the same for this example over here. We're going to then say, all right, well, what do I have? I have a, I'm going to use this color maybe in red. So I've got a. What's in my a term here? I've got a is 3x over 10, and I'm adding with 2y over 15. So in this case here, to add these two together, or they first say find the lowest common denominator. So you can see 10 and 15, they're not the same type of fractions. One is tenths and the other one is 15ths. So we need to find the lowest common multiple. How do we do that? So lowest common multiple, you need to go through your times tables and say, well, 10 times tables, I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and onwards, right? Then I go through my 15 times tables. I got 15, 30, 45, 60, 75 onwards, right? So there's my 15 times tables. And then I look at, well, what's in common between the two? And you can see that they both have a 30. And then likely if you continued, the next one would have been a 60, okay? But in our case, we want the lowest common multiple, so the lowest common multiple must be 30. And so here, how do I change them both to a 30? And you can see that if I times this by 3, times the top by 3, keeping it equivalent, times this by 2, and times this by 2, I will change the denominators now into a fraction that I can add. So we can see we've got 9x, so 3x times 3. 3 times the 3 is 9. And then denominator, 10 times 3 is 30, plus 2 times 2y is 4y, over 15 times 2, which is 30. Okay, so putting them together, I can now say together, how many 30ths do I have? I've got 9x add for y. Now notice, these two are not like terms. X and y aren't like terms, so I can't add them together, and that is my final answer. Okay, so you can't do anything in the numerator, that's why you leave it as it is. Do not add them together and write 13xy. That is wrong. Okay, you can't combine them together. So, in part A, find the lowest common multiple. Well, answering the question, I already have. Lowest common multiple is 30 for part A, and then for part B, they wanted me to convert 2x over 7 to an equivalent algebraic fraction with denominator of 21. So they're just saying that if you've got 2x over 7, what is the equivalent fraction if I want the denominator to be 21? And you can see here, to get from 7 to a denominator of 21, I'd have to multiply by 3. But remember, whatever you multiply on the bottom, you have to make sure to multiply on the top as well. So 3 times 2x gives me an answer of 6x. So that is my answer. It's 6x over 21 is an equivalent fraction where the denominator is 21. So that's how you do that example there. And if you were to work on the exercise, that's what they want you to do here. They're trying to get you to add these fractions together. These two are the same denominators, so when you write them together, it's 3x plus 5x 11ths, okay, because they're the same fraction. And then 3x plus 5x is 8x. I've got 8 of those x's, so I'm adding like terms together, and that's my answer, 8x over 11. That's my simplified answer. Over here, on the other hand, notice this is a 3 and that's a 5. Your job is to find the lowest common multiple. So, lowest common multiple, we know that going through your 3's times tables and 5 times tables, the lowest common multiple has to be 15. And so here we go. 4a over 3 plus 2a over 5. I need it to be 15, so I can see that I can times 3 to both. And on the bottom, it's times by 5. So here we go. We've got 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 3 is 15. 2a times 3 is 6a. And 4a times 5 is 20a. Okay, and together, how many 15s do we have? We've got 20 of these a's plus 6 of these a's. And together that gives me 26 a's over 15. So you see what I'm doing there? I made sure that denominators are the same, and then I said, can I add this? And yes, I can. They're both groups of a's. They're common terms or like terms. That's why I can add the two terms together. Okay? And then if we did, say, D, so an example D, same idea. We've got now a over 6 minus b over 9. And same thing again, they're not the same terms. We need them to have the same fraction. It's 6 and 9ths, so we need to find the lowest common multiple. Hopefully you figured out that 6 and 9 have a commonality of 18. So I know that if I times 9 by 2 to get 18 and times 3 to the 6 to get to 18, remember the times top and bottom the same to keep it equivalent. This gives me now 3a over 18 minus over 18 again, 2b. So putting together, they're all out of 18, 3a minus 2b. Can I subtract them? No. This is an a term, this is a b term. They are very different terms, okay? They're not like terms. That's why I can't add them. So my final answer is 3a minus 2b over 18. That's it. Okay, so that's how you would do this exercise for this question, where they train you to add fractions. Good opportunity for you to practice your fractions, but also to apply what you've learned with algebra and collecting like terms. Okay.